For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Game of Thrones video. Look, obviously, Game of Thrones is eight seasons. We'll say 7 seasons. Yeah, that's about right, 7 seasons. Because realistically, seasons 7 and 8 combined are about the size of one season. So, of course, it's gonna be more than 2 videos to talk about. And one thing that, of course, nobody who does YouTube and has seen Game of Thrones cannot do a video talking about the deaths. But basically, today I'm, sort of just talking about some of the villain deaths, the big villain deaths, let me just say. But of course, as the title, suggests, I'm also going to talk about the most deserved death in all of Game of Thrones. Because let's face it, there's a lot of innocent people that die in this show for absolutely nothing. I mean, Joffrey had all of the babies killed. Jesus Christ. And you know what? Since we're already on it, let's start with Joffrey. Obviously, Joffrey is a character that I think most people, will agree had a deserved death. Of course, we were all waiting for him to die. Well, except me. I expected way more from Joffrey, mainly because I spent my entire life hearing people talk about how horrific he was and that he is like the worst person in all of history. So when I saw his death, I was like, really? He dies this early? But yes, of course, Joffrey is one of the most despicable human beings in Game of Thrones, and even if you look at the things he's done and you go, oh, this person was worse, bear in mind that Joffrey was a child. I mean, this man essentially caused that first kid to die, right, by the river, because it was entirely his fault that kid got killed. Of course, he killed off Ned Stark, he showed Sansa his severed head, he of course tortured Sansa, basically, psychologically, really, apart from that one time when he had her stripped and beaten in front of everyone. He cut out that guy's tongue just because he didn't like the song. You have probably. I'm so happy they didn't show this because just imagining it is horrific. The scene when Tyrion gifts him Roz and the other girl, and he takes that thing and makes Roz shove it in her ass. Oh, Jesus Christ, that is horrific. Of course, you have him being an absolute pussy when it comes to the Blackwater battle because he just runs off. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, probably the scene that I hated him the most, but also he killed Roz in probably what was a torturous sequence. I'm kind of glad we didn't see it. But, the scene that I hated him the most was actually his wedding scene. When he absolutely, oh my God, I really just wanted him to have the most torturous death. Not at that current moment. I was hoping he would last a bit longer. But man, oh my God, watching him treat Tyrion the way he did, I was like, please, just someone punch this motherfucker. And then, of course, you have what I mentioned earlier, which is he had all of Robert Baratheon's bastards killed. I'm assuming that's right, because I asked ChatGPT why he had all the babies killed, and that's what it told me, because I didn't understand why he had it done in the show, unless I missed a piece of dialogue. But yes, obviously Joffrey has a lovely death. Of course, he is poisoned by Olenna Tyrell, and he basically just chokes on his own vomit, really, and it is so good to watch. Now, I know I'm just sort of talking about all the horrible things that he's done, but trust me, it will make sense at the end of the video, alright? Just bear with me. Bear with me. I know I waffle a lot, but trust me on this. Walder Frey, of course, another character that everyone absolutely hated, not because of, a load of evil actions that he did, but sort of he's just an absolute scumbag. I was gonna use a different word there, but YouTube will not allow that. He's like such a sleazy, slimy, like, just, horrible guy. And of course, he sort of breaks the oaths that all the houses have of, like, when you're inviting the guests and everything, there's peace, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, he just goes, yeah, nah, fuck that. Red wedding time, bitches. And of course, while I know that, he's not the only one that organized it, of course, Tywin Lannister did as well. He is, essentially, he's the one that carries out the plan. And that is the most traumatic scene in the show, I would say. And his death was so good. It was because Arya like cooked his sons into a pie or something like that, and then she just cut his throat and just held it and just held him. I mean that was freaking sick. But yeah, obviously significantly less evil than Joffrey in regards to the acts that he committed, at least quantity wise. Peter Baelish. I mean, this guy basically caused the entire show to happen by betraying Ned Stark. Of course, absolutely horrific scene. This guy basically was he was a master schemer in the first couple seasons. And then after that, he sort of just becomes, betrays everyone for the sake of, there isn't really sort of any plan to what he does. He just sort of, the writers just don't know what to do with him anymore. Like giving Sansa to the Boltons. Why would he do that? That made zero sense. Of course, trying to get Arya and Sansa to turn on each other. Don't know what you were going to accomplish with that, mate. But realistically, it's the thing with Ned Stark that sort of pissed everyone off the most, because that is the inciting incident of the show. Well, actually, I don't know about that. I would say probably Cersei and Jaime getting caught fucking is the inciting incident, but I wouldn't really say Littlefinger had a satisfying death, because he sort of just like his final moment was just him on his knees begging Sansa. Like, really? Seriously, this is the ending you give this character? Him and Varys, two super intelligent individuals who get like the most embarrassing deaths in the show. My God. Ramsay Bolton. See, now Ramsay is what I expected Joffrey to be, given how much everyone spoke about him for all the years, for freaking 14 years. Ramsay is the most evil bastard in the show. And I actually forgot that he's an actual bastard. He basically, I don't even remember his introductory sequence. I just remember him like leading Theon back to the torture chamber. That's literally all I remember. I don't even remember if he showed up before that. But yes, obviously he tortures Theon a bunch. He cuts his dick off, which, I would say was probably a bit too far. You have that scene. You have the frickin' the scene with his brother. That bloody hell. I know, obviously, Joffrey had like a bunch of babies killed, but with Ramsay, obviously, it was much more personal and focused, like more targeted. And bloody hell. Plus, this baby was mauled by dogs. It didn't just get its throat cut, it got pulled apart. And his mother, but, yeah. On top of that, he killed Rickon Stark and Wun, which realistically, that is still one of the saddest deaths in the show. Wun was the absolute goat. But, oh god, he committed probably the worst act. Okay, I don't know if I'd say it's the worst act. Realistically, it isn't. But it's up there, like top 5, top 3 at least, of graping Sansa, because they, had several times throughout the show where Sansa was so close to being SA'd by people, whether it be Joffrey or the people who just stormed King's Landing, or whatever it was. Not King's Landing, man. Whenever the Hound saved her, that time. Even Baelish, as much as he didn't, I wouldn't say I respect it, but even though he loved her and he kissed her without consent, at least he never tried to SA her. So as much as Littlefinger is an absolute dick, at least he never tried SAing Sansa. So yes, Ramsay created for probably the best, okay, one of the best villains of the show. And he's beaten in ultimately a pretty anticlimactic scene of when he's just shooting arrows at Jon and just gets absolutely pummeled and then killed by the dogs, basically off screen. Which, by the way, that fucking pisses me off. Why does Joffrey get such a long, drawn-out, torturous death, but Ramsay gets killed off-screen? Why? Ramsay was Ramsay was significantly more evil than Joffrey and had a lot more screen time than him. Tywin Lannister. In my opinion, the best villain of this show. Tywin, of course, orchestrates the Red Wedding, because he's a freaking mastermind. He arranges the marriages between Tyrion and Sansa and, Cersei and Dolores, which obviously does not go through because Cersei is an absolute bitch. He, of course, tried killing Tyrion when he was born, but he decided, you know what, no, for the sake of my family, I'm not going to do it. Which, by that logic, I am just going to say this. I know this is completely unrelated to Game of Thrones, but they are implying that Tywin Lannister is a better person than Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, because in The Last Jedi, they said that Luke was going to kill Kylo Ren, and he actually went to do it. Kylo stopped him, I think. I don't remember. That movie was very forgettable. But Tywin at least, decided, no, I'm not going to kill this child. I know that is obviously not comparable in the slightest, but I just wanted to sort of bring that up in case it annoys someone. I mean, the most evil thing that Tywin does, apart from orchestrating the Red Wedding, realistically isn't even him doing something directly, but yes, he did have all of those peasants captured and tortured and killed by the rats and the knights in Casterly Rock. That is, when Arya is whatchamacallit, when she's held there and then becomes his cupbearer. It's actually shocking how, for what I say, who I say, is the best villain in the show, I'm struggling to list evil things he's done. That just shows you, Tywin Lannister is the GOAT. And the last one that I'll talk about is the Mountain. The Mountain, of course, causes for probably one of, if not the most iconic death in Game of Thrones, and that is Oberyn Martell. What an awesome character he was. Just so charismatic, so funny, but also, he's a good character. And that's just because Pedro Pascal is a good actor. People complain about, oh, Pedro Pascal is in everything. Yes, because he is a damn good actor. Of course, he didn't just kill Oberyn. Oberyn, was going to kill him for a reason. And that is because the Mountain SA'd his sister and killed her children. And of course, we see the Mountain attack several people throughout the show. Even when Ned Stark was Hand of the King, he wanted the Mountain to be sentenced to death. And of course, he, is the reason that the Hound is burnt. And that is because he pressed his face into the fire just because he thought he was playing with one of his toys. And of course, a pretty good death is freaking the Hound just chucking him off. They're both dying at the same time, which... I hate to be that guy, but you better make sure that the Mountain is dead. Also, I forgot to mention that Tywin died on the toilet. So yeah. But now, this is where everything that I have yapped about comes together, because now it is time to talk about what I believe to be the most deserved death in Game of Thrones. I've spoken about the most despicable villains that we have had, all of the evil things they have done, and, until I forgot about Tywin's, how they died. So, who, if not Joffrey, if not Ramsay, if not Tywin, who had the most deserved death in the 8 seasons of Game of Thrones? Rickon Stark. Oh my god. I know you think I'm joking. I am not joking. Now, let me explain. Rickon is a D-tier character of this show. I think that he is absolute crap. I cannot even tell you a single line of dialogue with this child. Like, literally, anything he said, I do not remember. So, of course, he can't be anywhere near as evil as the other characters. He's not a villain. He's an innocent child, right? Sure. An innocent fucking stupid child. Let's go back and look at the deaths of the villains we have had, right? Joffrey. Joffrey was poisoned. He obviously, didn't know that he was poisoned, so of course he could not have prevented his death. There is no problem with that. He died in a way that he could not have stopped. Walder Frey, of course, an old, pathetic, weak man who, he's just sits at that table. I don't remember a single scene where this man walked. Of course, he's old, he's weak, he's slow. He's not going to escape a young, energetic girl. Of course she caught him. He didn't even make it out of the chair. There was no chance of him escaping. He couldn't have saved himself. Again, died in a way he couldn't have stopped. Ramsay. Well, this guy didn't have a sword. He could only fight with the bow and arrow. Jon got on top of him, and even when he died, he was already beaten and weak and couldn't move, and he was tied to the chair and surrounded by the dogs. There was no way of him escaping that. Again, died in a way he couldn't have stopped. Littlefinger he's literally surrounded by basically all of the citizens of Winterfell. There's no chance of this guy escaping. He knows that he's done. He died in a way, say it with me, in a way he couldn't have prevented. Tywin was on the shitter, and any move he made, Tyrion was going to shoot him. So, if he didn't move, he was going to die. If he did move, he was going to die. There was no chance of Tywin surviving that. The Mountain was in a fair fight with his brother. Of course, they both fell off. The Mountain seemed to have fought his hardest. Obviously, he's an old, slow zombie. There's not really much he could do. So, there, again, nothing he could have done to save himself. So what does this do with Rickon, you may ask? Well, in the scene where we see Rickon again after so long, he is held hostage by Ramsay. This is just before the Battle of the Bastards begins. Ramsay tells Rickon to run to his brother, and, of course, he tells him to run, and Rickon immediately just starts walking, lackadaisical, like he's in a fucking flower field, looking at all the butterflies, just walking, even though Ramsay told him to run. Ramsay then pulls out a fucking bow. He pulls out a bow and arrow, and then he decides, oh shit, I gotta run. And this motherfucker runs in a straight line. A guy is shooting, and he's shooting arrows at you, and you decide to run in a straight line directly in front of him. Ramsay barely even has to aim. All he has to do is shoot straight. He could have zigzagged. Obviously, zigzagging is like the most obvious thing to do here. And the thing is, I say he's running in a straight line. Sure, he can run in a straight line, like from right to left, or right to left, or left to right. Again, he could have zigzagged. He could have gone in like a circle or something. Basically, anything other than what he did. This is the dumbest fucking decision in this entire show. It's like someone pointing a gun at you and the barrel is basically touching your nose, and you decide to walk back slowly to try and evade the gunshot. That's essentially what he did in the scene. This death was entirely deserved, and it already pissed you off before the battle even began. I refuse to believe that anyone was sad when Rickon died, because he died in a fucking stupid way. It was entirely deserved. Entirely deserved. Arya and Sansa spend like seasons 7 and 8 talking about how smart each other are. Bran, he was alright, Clearly, in the gene pool, all of the brains went to those two. And Bran. And Rickon got fuck all, because clearly his head is fucking empty. I'm sure if Ramsay shot him in the head, you just hear a hissing noise, you just hear the air, coming out. All of the other characters that I spoke about today, regardless of whether they are evil or not, could have prevented their deaths. In another universe. In this one, though, no. None of them could have saved themselves. None of them could have survived, no matter what they did. They were all helpless. None of them could have prevented their deaths. Rickon literally just didn't have to do what he did, and he could have survived. Yes, he may not be evil, but it doesn't matter. He's a fucking idiot. He was basically giving the Ramsay the kill. He was like, yes, please, please kill me, Ramsay. Please do it. I don't want to be in this next season because of how shit it is. And actually, now that I say that, this was season 6, wasn't it? Next 2 seasons, I don't want to be in it, Ramsay. Please kill me. Fucking dumbass. So yes, I know that that climax was not worth it for most of you, but I don't know. I hope at least some of you are annoyed with that. But yes, I do stand by this. Rickon is the most deserved death in the show because he could have so easily have saved himself by just doing literally anything other than what he did. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is probably, honestly, that's a very strange video, but I'm very happy that I did this. That is what I believe to be the most deserved death in Game of Thrones. And do you guys agree with me? Because that I want to hear some, I want to get some discussion going. I want to hear what you guys think of this. Who do you think in all of Game of Thrones, villain or not, had the most deserved death? Although, why did I say death? Death, damn it. Realistically, no one is going to say anyone that isn't a villain. I mean, there's no one that's going to agree with me on Rickon. But I will stand by it. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is that. If you for some reason did enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.